Hey guys, today I'm going to talk to you about the 26 movies that I watched over the course of the 2022 Sundance Film Festival. I am going to rank them from the absolute worst, in my opinion, to the absolute best, in my opinion. For each movie, I'm going to give you a little bit of a review, obviously not too in-depth because, there's 26 movies, but some of them I'll probably talk about more than others. Let's get into it. These are the movies. I'm going to let you know which ones you can totally avoid and which ones you should absolutely be on the lookout for over the next year as these get released and picked up by studios. Okay, guys? Let's talk about it. Let's discuss the 26 movies. 26, you guys. 26 that I watched over the 2022 Sundance Film Festival. These are all feature-length films. Let's talk about it.
Hey, Tessa from MamasGeeky here. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel.
Okay, guys, so before we dive into this, if this is your first time here, I'd love it if you take 1 second and hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on more videos like this. I might be doing in-depth reviews of some of the major ones as they get closer to being released out to the public. Okay, guys, let's talk about it. My least favorite, very bottom of the list, was The Cathedral, guys. I gave this half a star. I was so bored. I just couldn't get into it. It was just not good. It wasn't my style. I was watching it with a group of friends and none of us could get into it. It was just kind of all over the place and boring and monotone, okay? It had like that Wes Anderson vibe of like a narrator talking over everything that's happening. That's super monotone and it just didn't work. And I was like, but nothing's actually happening. And it was really weird going through stuff like pictures that were being taken. And I don't know, I couldn't even get into it. And I really tried, but it just absolutely fell flat for me. Now, next is another half-star film, Framing Agnes. It just was a weird mix of like recreation and documentary and interviews, and the way that it combined and mixed together just didn't work for me and completely took me out of the movie, unfortunately, because I was really, really looking forward to this one. Next is Something in the Dirt. Now, this is something I was really looking forward to. This felt like it was right up my alley, supernatural, weird stuff. I ended up giving it 1 star because it just was kind of all over the place and the effects weren't great and the main characters, like, they weren't very believable. And then the ending all of a sudden got really good. Like, the very ending, I was like, oh, this is awesome. This is what I was kind of waiting for the entire movie. But unfortunately, it was just a little too late at that point. Next is another 1-star movie, you guys, Sharp Stick. And this is another one I was very much interested in. I was all about it, and it was just not believable. So just to preface this, it's basically this young, innocent girl, right? She's like 26, I think, and she's a virgin. And she apparently knows nothing of the sexual nature, except the house that she lives in, where she lives with her mom and her sister. And they're constantly talking about this stuff. And, like, they're very open about it. And I'm talking, like, stuff that's not, the basics even. And so it made no sense to me that she wasn't, like, that she was this naive. It just didn't make sense. So that in itself, and then it was just weird and creepy, and then it just went on far too long. Like, the initial story was interesting, and then like a twist happens, and I don't want to say what, but something happens and the whole story changes into something that is just bananas, and it just didn't work, and it ended up being very creepy and uncomfortable to watch at times. So yeah, that one just wasn't for me, unfortunately, because it's got some good actors in it, and I was really looking forward to it, but it was definitely one of the worst movies of Sundance, but probably one of the worst movies of the year, okay? Next, we have another 1-star movie, and this is one that I was really looking forward to as well, and this is Nanny. And I think the thing that I really didn't like about this, I love the lead performance, I love her in Titans, I think she's amazing, Anna Joy, but for me, as a mother, and it's something I cannot talk about without spoiling the entire movie, but if you've seen it, when you see it, if you see it, you'll know what I'm talking about. Towards the end, as a mother, I was like, this is not, no, like, there's no world where I believe that a mother, this would happen, right? With family, with children. It's this is very hard to talk about without spoiling it, but I was like, no, that wouldn't happen. No. And it made me so mad. And then there's this mermaid thing that was weird to me because it wasn't like explained. And I've had a couple of friends actually explain to me that this is a cultural thing, but I just wish they took the 5 to 10 minutes in the movie to explain that, so it didn't feel so completely out of left field. Nanny was visually stunning, but there was just too much in the story that was, number one, not believable, and two, confusing for me. They didn't take the time they needed to flesh that out, so unfortunately, that one gets 1 star from me. Next up is Living, which gets 1.5 stars from me, and the only reason it even gets 1.5 stars is because the lead performance is really good, but it's boring, it's slow, it's kind of all over the place. There's like flashbacks, and like some of them are black and white and some aren't, and it just didn't really work well for me. I found myself kind of completely zoning out and then being like, wait, what happened? Like, I couldn't get into it. You know what I mean? You know, there's movies that just can't suck you in and can't hold your attention, and unfortunately Living was one of them. I know I had several people recommend it to me, but for me, I just couldn't do it. I did watch the whole thing, but I was just extremely bored, and towards the end I was like, wait, what is going on? Like, I'm telling you, those flashbacks back and forth all over the place, it was just, it took me out of the movie, unfortunately. It didn't work for me, so that one gets 1.5 stars. Next is Master, and I was really looking forward to this because I love a creepy movie. My problem with this one, and I gave it 2 stars, but my problem with this one is it didn't spend enough on the supernatural, scary, weird stuff. There were hints of it there, but then they spent a lot of time on this other stuff, and I'm trying to do this without spoilers, but I will say there's a moment where it should have ended, and then it went on for another 15-20 minutes with this weird side story that did not need to be part of the movie at all, number one. And then number two, if it was going to be part of the movie, they should have wrapped it up before this moment that easily should have been the ending of the film. If that scene that I'm talking about, and when you watch this, if you watch this, you'll know what I'm talking about. If they had ended the movie right there, would have raised it another 1.5 stars probably. Would have been a 3.5 for me. There was just no need to continue on, and unfortunately that really pulled the movie down for me and ruined it for me, and especially since the story was weird and didn't even feel like it should have been part of the story. They really should have focused on the supernatural aspect of it, and this weird part was just kind of like, I don't know why you're including this, and even if you are, wrap it up before that amazing shot that definitely should have been the end of the movie. When You Finish Saving the World was one of my most anticipated movies of Sundance 2022, and I'm putting this in at 3 stars because it's okay, but I will tell you, the 2 main actors, who, by the way, phenomenal, Finn Wolfhard and Julianne Moore, I love them, is part of the reason why I was so excited. They're horrible, horrible people, and it's to the point where you can't even, like, find anything to relate to them with. You can't enjoy them at all. They're just horrible people, and you're like, get off my screen, I don't like you, right? It's about a mother and a son who can't connect at all, and so they kind of find other people in their lives to connect. The mom finds this boy that she kind of like mentors, but it's weird because it totally feels like she wants to sleep with him, and I don't know if those are the vibes she was supposed to be putting off, but it was weird and I didn't like it. And then Finn Wolfhard's character is just a horrible person who's completely self-centered and just doesn't get it. And I mean, I guess he's like some teenagers are, right? He just thinks that he is the center of the universe and that he deserves everything he wants. And he's like a YouTuber. He live streams, he sings songs on the internet, and he's just annoying. He makes sure to work how many subscribers he has into literally every single conversation he has, and it just gets grating and annoying. Overall, it's an interesting premise, and I like the story. And again, the 2 lead performances, if the point is to make you hate them, it works. The ending felt a little weird and out of place, so I gave it a 3 out of 5 because I'm glad I watched it. I don't think I'll ever watch it again. Now, I'm not big into documentaries, so I didn't watch much of them, but To the End is one that I watched, and I'm glad I did, but it's at a 3 out of 5. Was entertaining, but I felt like a lot of the stuff I already knew and I've already seen. It's very heavily focused on AOC and climate change, and yes, it was interesting to watch, but again, it felt very repetitive considering that I've seen a lot of this stuff in the news already. Another 3 out of 5 film for me is Speak No Evil. Now, I love dark, gritty, creepy, and grotesque things, and well, Speak No Evil pulls that off, especially towards the end. My biggest issue with this is that it was predictable. It does a great job of laying the groundwork so that the twists and turns are believable and the reveals are believable, but it almost does a little too good of a job with certain things because, again, it's predictable enough where you figure stuff out about 10, 15 minutes before it's revealed. I will say it's a lot of fun, and if you like dark, creepy, grotesque, and things that really will freak you out and mess with your mind, check out Speak No Evil. Now, next up is a little bit of a disappointment that it's this far down the list because it was in my top 5 most anticipated movies of the 2022 Sundance Film Festival, and that is Alice. I still give it a 3 out of 5 because I really love the performances here. I really love the overall story here. I love a lot of the visuals, the cinematography, the score. It's a really good movie. But there's one glaring issue that I just couldn't get over that really made me knock it down to that 3 out of 5. Now, the synopsis states that this is about a slave in the antebellum South who escapes from the plantation only to discover that a different reality, a shocking reality, is beyond that tree line, right? I think we can all kind of figure out where this is going. And honestly, my biggest issue is how much Alice adapted and how quickly she adapted. From the moment she escaped until where we see her less than a week later. This whole film takes place over the course of a week, less than a week. It's like 5 days, and it's just not believable, right? You can't just talk to a few people, read a few books, watch a movie, and just become a completely different person and completely adjusted to a new reality. There's just not gonna happen, and unfortunately that is just what makes this movie. I had to knock it down a little because I was like, this is not believable. Although, again, I still really enjoyed so much of it. I love the ending. I thought it's a fun movie. It's a great movie. I might even watch it again. It just didn't fully work as well as I wanted it to for me. And perhaps that's because I had such high expectations, as it was one of my most anticipated of the festival. So Alice gets a 3 out of 5. Next up is Duel, which also gets a 3 out of 5. I thought this one was a lot of fun. I love Karen Gillan. I thought she was fantastic. Aaron Paul is hilarious in this as well. Really just enjoyed the dynamic between the two of them. And I love Karen playing 2 different characters. Now, this is about, someone who's going to be dying. So she has an AI type thing, clone, whatever you want to call it, created to take over her life. When she dies, she doesn't die, and they're told they need to duel to the death to decide which one lives. Now, I will say the ending was a little bit of a disappointment for me. Some of the stuff that happened, I felt like I was promised more, and I didn't get it. And I think that's what brought this movie down for me. But it's still a really fun watch, and if you're into this weird sci-fi stuff, check out Duel. Now we're moving into the movies that are rated 3.5 stars. So first up is Emily the Criminal. I love Aubrey Plaza. I think she's amazing, and she absolutely crushes it in this film. Now, does she make all the best decisions in the world? No. But I do really enjoy her journey throughout this film, and I love the way that it ended. I think some people are not going to like it. I really enjoyed it. I thought she was great. She just dominates this entire movie. Plus, the crime thriller aspect of it is a lot of fun. There's a couple of times I got jump scared, but it's very entertaining, and I like that it's dark and it's gritty. So Emily the Criminal gets a 3.5 out of 5 for me. Next up is Resurrection, which also gets a 3.5 out of 5. And in all honesty, the main reason this movie is so high on my list is because of the last 10 minutes. They are insane. The ending comes completely out of left field. I was totally shocked. And if you can completely shock me in a movie to where I never, ever, ever in a million years would have predicted what happened, listen, I'm all in. It's a bit of a thriller. It's definitely a mystery. It's scary. It's intense. But yeah, Resurrection is one to watch out for. Next up is Hatching, which also gets a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And for me, this one is just all about the visuals, okay? It's intense. It's a foreign film. It's about this girl who finds an egg and she hatches it, and this creature kind of implants itself on her, right? Sees her, thinks that's her mother, and then things get crazy. Pretty much anyone who wants to challenge this little girl gets hurt. Okay, let's put it that way. And it's very interesting. The ending, another one that kind of took me by surprise, right? I really thought this was going to be it's a predictable thriller horror, this is what's going to happen at the end. And it didn't. And what did happen was crazy. And I was like, okay, I'm here for this movie. So definitely check out Hatching if this is your sort of thing. Next up on the list is Brian and Charles. And for me, this was just a really fun comedy, buddy comedy type movie. Now, Brian and Charles is about this weird kooky inventor who kind of ends up inventing this AI robot creature character guy with a mannequin head who is a lot of fun, very innocent. Kind of, if you've seen Finch, he reminds me of Jeff. You know, he's learning, right? He's adapting. He's all of a sudden alive and doesn't know what to do. He loves to eat cabbages, which is just weird. But it's kind of in a documentary form, sort of. Like, okay, a mockumentary, right? So it reminds me of What We Do in the Shadows in the way that, like, they're constantly talking to the camera. But it's just a lot of fun. And especially towards the end, I really got into it. And I love the humor of it. But I love these two together. Brian and Charles, like, made me so just happy. And again, I got that like, little innocent feeling that just made me laugh and laugh and laugh. As like, with Jeff and Finch, right? Learning stuff. And then kind of evolves into those teen years where he's, like, sassy and kind of talking back to Brian sometimes, right? Like, no. And he just develops this sense to want to see the world, and I just really, really enjoyed the dynamic between the two of them, and the ending did make me a little teary. So I had to put this towards the top of my list. So Brian and Charles gets a 3.5 out of 5. I know it has been picked up, so guys, be sure to check that one out. Now, God's Country gets a 3.5 out of 5 for me as well. And one of the things that I like about this is how believable it feels. This feels very real, okay? When tensions are high, it's very easy for things to get escalated very, very quickly. So this basically starts out with someone who has this property. Her mother has died, and these hunters come and park on her land, and she's like, hey, don't park here. And then it escalates into, like, the end is crazy. And again, this is another one that takes place over the course of about a week, maybe even a little less. And you're just like, what is happening? Like, this happened, then this happened, then this happened. It's like retaliation constantly. And the scary part about it is that is believable. It's also got stunning visuals, an incredible score, and it's just got some powerful, powerful performances. So definitely check out God's Country if you can. After Yang also gets a 3.5 out of 5 for me. And what I love about this is, of course, I love the sci-fi type of thing. Now, this is about a family who has adopted a little girl, and in the future, apparently, you can also, when you adopt a little girl from a certain area, you can get an AI robot from that same area to teach them about their culture, okay? And so that's kind of what this is. Yang is that AI that they adopted, and then at the very beginning, he has an issue and they can't reboot him, and this kind of becomes, what do we do after Yang, okay? The thing that I really like about this, and it's I don't know that I would say it's subtle, but it's not super in your face, but as a parent, it really hit me because it's kind of like, here's what you could miss out on with your children, right? There's a whole lot of that in here. Exploration of life and enjoying time with your loved ones while you are here on Earth, while they are here on Earth. And I think that's what really got to me. It doesn't feel like there's any stakes. It doesn't feel like there's any real plot here. Like, it's kind of just an exploration of life and family and love. And that's what I really enjoyed about it. It's subtle. It's nice. It's a good movie. It's a really, really good movie, and there's some incredible visuals here as well, and a really, really fun dance scene that I wanted to watch a couple of times over. So After Yang gets a 3.5 out of 5. Emergency is next on the list, and this one also gets a 3.5 out of 5. I kicked off the 2022 Sundance Film Festival with this movie, and I'm really glad I did. I felt like it was a very good starting point for the festival. It was intense. This is so intense. It takes a turn about 10, 15 minutes in maybe, and you're like, oh, this is where we're going. Okay. I mean, it's got a lot of great performances. Sabrina Carpenter is in it, and she's not in it enough, I feel like she would have been really good a little bit more. I kind of hate her character, which I think is kind of the point, especially towards the end. You're like, just shut up, girl. But it's intense and it's real, and that's what I love about it. And there's a certain moment towards the end that involves two of the main characters and that had me just sobbing because it felt like I could feel the emotion coming through and it feels real. Now, this is about these people who are like, hey, we're best friends. We're going to go do this crazy tour of parties, right? We're going to be the first African-American people, first Black people to complete this tour of parties, or I forget what it's called exactly, but basically like go from party to party to party to party all night. When they get to their house, they're getting ready to go, and there's some passed out white girl, and they're like, oh, what do we do? Should we call the police? Should we not call the police? Let's take her to the hospital. Let's do this. And they're scared. And that intensity, it just gets more and more intense throughout the entire film. And it's really, really good. an amazing ending. There's a couple of moments in there that really, like, they're hard to watch and they're uncomfortable to watch, but they're important to watch. And that's what I loved about Emergency. Next up is another 3.5 out of 5. This is actually the final 3.5 out of 5 film. This is called Watcher. Now, this one was a lot of fun for me. This is about a girl who moves to a foreign country with her boyfriend, and she thinks she's being watched, right? But is she being watched? Is she not being watched? You know, it's kind of a play on those types of movies. What's happening? Is this guy really out to get her? Is he not out to get her? Is she crazy? Is she imagining things? Does this guy think she's out to get him? Like, what's going on here? And it's intense and it's crazy. And then it gets really crazy. And it's one of those things where, like, the end comes out of left field. And I absolutely thought it was an amazing way to end the movie. I was in shock. I think my jaw was on the floor. I really, really loved the twists and turns all throughout the entire film. It was very believable. I felt like I was in it with this main character. I was here. I was like getting scared too. And then I started to think, am I crazy? And that's what makes a movie like this really good, when the audience starts to second guess things themselves. So Watcher, check it out. I know it's been picked up. Be sure to watch it. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. Now, my first 4 out of 5 movie is Piggy. Now, the synopsis states that this is about a girl who is bullied, and when she witnesses them being kidnapped, okay, brutally kidnapped, she needs to decide, is she going to side with the kidnapper here and let these bullies get what they deserve? Or is she going to do the right thing and let the town know, let the parents know, let everyone know, hey, I saw this guy kidnap these kids, right? So what should she do? And this movie is just a great exploration of those morals and that internal struggle. And I don't want to give anything away, but I will say that I was here for it. I love the whole ride of this movie. It's a journey. It's a lot of fun. It's based on a short, and it's my one issue, guys. My one issue is I felt like it wasn't bloody enough. I felt like it censored itself a little too much. Like sometimes, like, there's something really intense that's going to happen and it cuts away and you see like a splatter of blood and you're like, ugh, I really would have loved to see that gore. That's me. A lot of people will probably appreciate this choice, but still I give Piggy a 4 out of 5. Okay, guys, we're into my 5 favorite movies of Sundance 2022, and this one here is Am I Okay? I gave this a 4 out of 5. I was thoroughly entertained from beginning to end. It's sweet, it's heartwarming, it's a coming-of-age, coming-out story, okay? It is like a coming-of-age story, even though the main character here, Dakota Johnson, she's in her, I think she's like 30 or like her older 20s, and she's realizing that she's gay. And she's trying to figure this out, right? She's trying to figure out how she's going to deal with this. And then she has this best friend, and they have their issues. Their relationship is kind of going along this roller coaster for different reasons. It's not because of her coming out. So this is really her trying to explore herself, and I love that. And I love the friendship that she has with this person. Even though it's very rocky, it's very up and down, I enjoyed their journey all throughout, and the end was absolutely amazing. There's a lot of humor in this and a lot of heart, and again, it's very much a coming-of-age, coming-out story, and I really, really loved it. So it's called Am I Okay? Definitely keep your eyes peeled for that one. My number 4 favorite movie of Sundance 2022 is called Jane, and this one gets a 4 out of 5 as well. I really liked this story a lot. Elizabeth Banks stars, and she's just absolutely phenomenal. She steals every scene she is in. She's completely captivating. It is just such a good story. Now, this is a story about a woman who needs to get an abortion for health reasons, and, well, this is a lot timelier than I wish it was, but, you know, she can't get an abortion. They're illegal. You have to go to a hospital board and have them vote, a room of men vote and decide whether you can get an abortion or not, okay? Now, this is all in the synopsis, but she has to use other ways of getting this abortion done because, I mean, it was like her life or death, basically, and nobody seemed to care. They care about the life of the child. So now she ends up joining this group of women who are called Jane, and it's called Jane. If you need help, if you need to talk, whatever the reason you have this issue that you need to get an abortion, just call Jane, and we will do what we can for you. And it's kind of this underground ring of abortions. But it's the thing about it, I think, is that it's so timely right now with the Roe v. Wade stuff happening. And I really enjoyed the story. And again, Elizabeth Banks is amazing. So definitely check out Call Jane. Number 3 of the 2022 Sundance Film Festival movies that I watched is Cha Cha Real Smooth, okay? This is a 4.5 out of 5 stars for me, and I thought it was so much fun. Again, right? You've got heart and you've got humor, and this is just such a good story. It follows a young man who doesn't really know what he wants to do with his life, and he becomes one of those, like, party starters, right? He goes around to bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs and, like, gets the kids to dance and have fun. And along the way, he meets Dakota Johnson, who, I can't believe it, is starring in 2 of my 5 favorite movies from the 2022 Sundance Film Festival. And they have this weird relationship. He kind of falls in love with her, but I mean, like, she's older than him. She's got a kid. He creates this friendship with her, and she's engaged. I mean, there's all this stuff going on. But I really, really enjoy the 2 of them and their chemistry together. It's such a fun movie, right? It moves along really well. The pacing is great. It doesn't feel longer than it should, which is sometimes hard to do with movies like this. It's an absolute blast. I highly recommend it. I don't want to give much away. I would just say is definitely, I mean, listen, it hit my top 3, but I would say is largely in part because of Dakota Johnson. She's so good in this. My second favorite movie of the 2022 Sundance Film Festival is Good Luck to You, Leo Grande. This movie gets a 4.5 out of 5 stars, and it is the only movie that I watched twice during the festival. I really, really love this movie. It's so empowering. It's all about body image and confidence and learning to be comfortable in your own skin. The transformation that Emma Thompson goes through from the beginning to the end is absolutely incredible. So the whole premise of this movie is that her husband has died. She has done nothing adventurous in her life at all, so she decides to hire a sex worker, and that is Leo Grande. And she brings him in to a hotel, and they end up really helping each other. It's quite a journey throughout the entire movie, and by the end, there is a shot that I think is absolutely beautiful in its own way, and it really is all about body positivity, confidence, and I love it a lot. It's probably going to stay in my top favorite movies of the entire year. Which brings me to my favorite movie from the 2022 Sundance Film Festival, definitely going to remain in my favorite movies of the entire year. I'm almost positive of it, and that is Fresh. Now, Fresh also gets a 4.5 out of 5 just because of minute little nitpicking details. But man, Sebastian Stan is freaking incredible in this, okay? So this movie is basically about a girl who meets a guy. Maybe he seems a little too good to be true. Well, she has a lot of things that she needs to deal with if she wants this relationship to work. And I know it's out there. I mean, Fresh, we know. I really don't want to give spoilers, but it's clear from the synopsis and from everything else. Like, maybe he eats people. Maybe he's a bit of a cannibal, okay? And I will tell you, Sebastian Stan is so flipping good in this because he is maniacal. He is just an awful person. And the way that he is portrayed, like, he is so good in this role, you guys. He just sits and he talks like he's normal. Certainly doesn't hurt that he has amazing chemistry with pretty much everyone else in this movie. I love it. It's brutal. It's kind of gross. There's some grotesque, nasty stuff that they show, which I'm totally here for. And I really, really love the story, you guys. I loved the story. There's a lot of action in here. There's a great score. There's some crazy visuals, and just, I don't want to say too much, but I will just say Sebastian Stan delivers one of his best performances ever in Fresh. And I highly recommend that you check it out. It's a 4.5 out of 5, and it's my favorite movie from the 2022 Sundance Film Festival. Okay, guys, you let me know what movies I talked about that you're looking forward to down below in the comments. Be sure to give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Like I said, I'll probably have more in-depth reviews on some of these as they get closer to their release. Thanks for taking the time to watch this, guys. Don't forget you can follow me over on Instagram and Twitter. I'm at MamasGeeky over there. MamasGeeky. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much to all of my monetary supporters, my members here on YouTube, as well as my patrons. If you haven't joined yet, please consider doing so. We have some really awesome perks, including a monthly Zoom meeting where we get to talk face to face. Thank you again to everyone who supports me.